I live in a tiny home, and here are 5 reasons why I hate it. Number 1.
Tiny home, big problems. I'm a first-time home buyer. September 2025. I don't know if I'm cut out for this shit or not, but I'm ready to lose my mind and go back to renting somebody else's house and paying somebody else's mortgage because I don't think I can do all this. I'll tell you about the fucked up week I've been having. So, first of all, our basement flooded significantly. It's still flooding. Every time you shot back it out, it just fills right back up.
And I transitioned from a traditional home to a tiny home this year, and I'm going to talk about one reason that I feel like I made a major mistake.
The morning I turned 18, they walked into my bedroom, they held up the house keys, and they're like, "Get out of our house." I was super excited about it until we pulled into the driveway, and I realized the house they bought me was tiny.
Selling tiny houses. Well, you're going to buy a tiny house from Walmart, Amazon, or maybe Home Depot. I hope you have a big budget. Why? Well,
tiny homes looks cute, affordable, and simple, but what happens after you eventually move in? Some people love the tiny home life, while others are starting to ask, what have I done? So let's just about this. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Joy. So let's just get right straight into the video.
Tiny home, big problems. I'm a first-time home buyer. September 2025. I don't know if I'm cut out for this shit or not, but I'm ready to lose my mind and go back to renting somebody else's house and paying somebody else's mortgage because I don't think I can do all this. I'll tell you about the fucked up week I've been having. So, first of all, our basement flooded significantly. It's still flooding. Every time you shot back it out, it just fills right back up. Oh, and our drains have been farting. They just go... I hired a drain guy. He was supposed to come out today. $485. I took the whole fucking day off work and he canceled on us. My Hyundai Santa Fe, bought it brand new. It's got 34,000 miles on it right now. Check engine lights on for the second time. Same issue, powertrain, but it keeps going out. So then when we take to the dealership, they can't recreate the issue. Oh, a light quit working in the house. We had to rewire that. The kitchen sink started leaking. And our drains are backing up. And I am losing my fucking mind. Oh, the washer... won't spin out all the way. I have to run that twice. I have to run a regular cycle and then a rinse and spin cycle. The dryer won't dry all the way, so I gotta run that like 2 or 3 times. Y'all, apparently I'm having the week I fucking deserve. I'm losing my motherfucking mind right now. It just keeps filling up, so. 2025 till April 2026, I think I've learned my lesson, okay? Love you, bye.
Now, this is where the tiny home dream start looking a little bit different. A flooded basement, leaking sink, broken lights, washer problems, dryer problems. At this point, I would just sit down and stare at the wall. And the worst part is that she took a day off for a 485 repair, only for the guy to cancel. This is the part people don't show you when they post their beautiful tiny homes video. The small house does not mean small problems. See,
I live in a tiny home, and here are 5 reasons why I hate it. Number 1, since it's only 399 square feet, I hear every single noise that goes on outside. So if a tiny tree branch falls, I hear it, and it sounds like it's in the house. Number 2 is the water heater. My shower literally only gets hot for like 5 minutes. After that, it's cold because it only fits such a small water heater. I haven't looked into it to see if I can make the water heater bigger, but I need to do that ASAP because it's horrible. Number 3 is the AC. So I have 2 mini splits, one in the downstairs bedroom and then one in the living room area right by the staircase. And I'm a hot sleeper, so I would have wished that I would have gotten the other mini split inside of the loft area where I'm sleeping because I have to have a fan directly on me. Number 4 is it took me forever to figure out how I could get Wi-Fi inside of my house because I was using my parents' Wi-Fi, and since the top of the roof is metal, it was very hard to share the Wi-Fi even though I'm so close to my parents. So I had to buy a specific thing and figure it out. But for a long time, it would cut in and out and I would never have any Wi-Fi or service. Now, honestly, guys, that's it. I can't think of anything else that I hate about my tiny house. I just love it so much.
I can understand when your house is only 399 square feet, you are going to literally hear everything. A branch fall outside and suddenly it sounds like someone just walked into your house, and that water heater, few minutes of hot water, would have made me question every life decision I ever made. But I like the fact that she said she still loved the house. But so maybe the problem is not the tiny house itself, it's just learning how to live with the limitations.
My parents bought me a house for my 18th birthday, and I know you're probably thinking I'm super lucky, but that is not the case here at all, because what happened was literally the morning I turned 18, they walked into my bedroom, they held up the house keys, and they're like, "Get out of our house." I was super excited about it until we pulled into the driveway, and I realized the house they bought me was tiny. It was a little over 1,300 square feet. And now keep in mind, the house I grew up in was over 6,000 square feet. We had a basketball court, a swimming pool, movie theater, like anything you could think of. We had it in a bowling alley. And then I am gifted this starter home. Like it's like builder gray, like very basic, no amenities. And that was just kind of like a culture shock for me. And as we're walking through this house, I looked at them and I said, "Are you really going to make me live here?" And they said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "You're going to make me move into this house, like move out of the house that I've grown up in. That was like over 6,000 square feet into this tiny little place." It's just kind of messed up that they raised me with one lifestyle and then expect me to just completely do a 180 and live like a middle-class American.
Wait a minute. Her parents bought her a house for 18 years birthday and she was still mad about it? I'm sorry, if someone handed me a house key at 18, I'm saying thank you before I even open the door. But I understand that point. I grew up in a 6,000 square feet house with a pool, bowling, and moving theater. Then she got 1,003 square feet and was like, excuse me, that's a different lifestyle adjustment, right?
Here's something they don't tell you before you move into a tiny house. You better really, really, really love the people you're doing it with, because you're about to share every emotion, every feeling, every up, every down, and every single thing in a space with no doors that's about 2.5 meters wide and 9 meters long. You better really learn how to manage and regulate your own emotions, because you're going to be leeching them into this tiny little space that you're sharing with others. That's either going to become your prison or your cozy little home. Now, if you're planning on buying a tiny house as a single person, well, it's not really that hard. It's just downsizing and learning how to not really have as much stuff in your life. However, doing it as a family means sharing every single tantrum, every single female moon cycle, and every single masculine testosterone surge with everyone in a tiny space. And my largest recommendation for anyone wanting to do it is have a big undercover outside space. We don't have one because, well, we thought we'd be moving a lot sooner than we actually are. However, a large outside space is definitely recommended. Now, my other recommendation is to have a large shed to store a lot of your stuff and potentially put solar panels on top of. So you may want to get yourself a shipping container to store even more stuff and potentially run a business from. So you should plant yourself a really big garden so you have something to frolic in when you're not inside of your tiny little space. But yeah, I do actually highly recommend anyone live in a tiny house because you don't actually need that much stuff. What you do need is to learn how to regulate, and tiny house living helps with that.
This one is very important because living in a tiny house by yourself is one thing. Living in one with your partner or your family is a completely different thing. There's nowhere to really escape when someone is having a bad day. Someone is angry, you are there. Someone is stressed, you are there. Someone wants 5 minutes alone. Good luck with that. I think the outdoor space is eventually a very good idea.
If this is the first time you're seeing my face, my name is Misty, and I transitioned from a traditional home to a tiny home this year, and I'm going to talk about one reason that I feel like I made a major mistake. And while I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to sit here and have my cold brew coffee out on my front porch on a summer afternoon, enjoying this nice Texas weather. Now, back to the reason why I think I made a major mistake, and it's probably not what you're thinking. The one thing that I feel like I failed in is not doing this sooner. I mean, seriously, not doing this sooner, not downsizing and getting rid of all of the needless things and stuff in my life, and creating a smaller space for me to thrive. I really feel like I'm thriving in this, and there is not a day that has gone by in the almost 2 months that I have moved in that I feel like I made a mistake. So if this is even on your radar, if you have ever thought about downsizing to a tiny home, if you don't know where to start, if you're in the process of it, whatever it is, I'm just here to encourage you that, I had a little bit of apprehension when I signed the closing papers on my home that I had built for me because I loved it. And I thought, Misty, what are you doing? But since the moment I walked through the doors of this house, I have felt nothing but complete and utter contentment. I mean, when I tell you, it is so nice to be able to have a place where I have everything that I need in close proximity and not have to worry about cleaning a big area or having a whole lot of upkeep on the outside, or it's so relaxing. it's so relaxing. And I'm not even saying that this is something that you can only do if you're single. I think this would be perfect for a couple as well, especially if you're nearing retiring age or if you have the desire to travel, whatever. I mean, I could go on and on, but that is the one mistake and regret that I have, is that I didn't do it sooner. So cheers.
Now, this one is completely different. She actually regret not moving into a tiny home sooner. And I think that's interesting because we usually think more space means better life, but sometimes more space just means more stuff to clean, right? More things to maintain, more money going out, right? Because you keep buying things. She's basically saying I should have done this years ago. And honestly, I can see why some people would love that kind of simplicity.
For the past 13 months or so, I've been living in a tiny home. And those who follow the tiny home movement know that a tiny home can range from anywhere as small as 100 square feet or 200 square feet, and even up to about 800 to 900 square feet are still considered tiny homes. Now, I followed the movement for several years before I built my own tiny home. Mine is, well, it was originally 400 square feet, which is the size of 2 shipping containers. And yes, built from shipping containers initially. With some additions, I have brought it up to what might be about 600 square feet and some outdoor space. Now, I wanted to share some of the most impactful lessons I've learned from living in a tiny home for this lengthy period. Now, I'm not going to talk about the process of getting the tiny home, of building it and all of that. No, you're not going to get a tour. That's not what the purpose of this video is. But because we're here at the beginning of the new year, and this is when people start to set goals, and a lot of those goals are about what you want to have, what you want to acquire for the next year. I was thinking to myself how different I am now a year later than when I moved into the tiny home maybe 13 to 14 months ago. And one of the greatest lessons is I've learned you really need much less than you think you need. Most of us are raised in capitalist societies which tell you that success is marked by how much you have. And no matter how much you have, you're supposed to get more and more. So you make more. You get the bigger house, the bigger car, the more expensive house. You upgrade the kitchen. You're always buying things. You have tons and tons of clothes. And now you have 20 shoes and 40 shoes and the newest phone. It's about things. Materialism is at the heart of capitalism. And I definitely bought into that whole lifestyle. And I lived it for a very, very long time. When you add to the fact that I'm a professional, I'm an attorney, the space itself is about a certain kind of lifestyle as well. But one of the things I learned over the years, and you can research this, the happiest people are often not the ones that have the most. No, it's nice to have things, and we can get addicted to having things because having things gives us a dopamine hit. That part of our brain that lets go the feel-good hormone known as dopamine. So when we go shopping, we get that hit of dopamine. And when we buy the newest thing, we get the hit of dopamine. When we dress up pretty and we get more clothes, we get the hit of dopamine. And we can become addicted to that cycle. But in that cycle, you can also rack up a whole lot of debt. And that is why the middle class tends to be the most indebted of all the social classes. Because to get and maintain the lifestyle, if you're not making a certain amount of money, what you do is you get your mortgage and you get your car loan and you get and debt is normalized. But when I started following, I read the book Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, and I started following his podcast a couple years ago. I started to shift my thoughts on debt, and I wanted to have a very low debt lifestyle because personally, as an employment law attorney, I watch all the time when people's lives change overnight because they've lost a job. Their entire identity is wrapped up in this big job, this big position, this big salary. I've noticed it's a noose around your neck, number one, because if you are highly indebted because of this fancy lifestyle you live in, you're going to do everything to keep the job because you can't afford to lose the job. Because if you lose the job, you can't pay your mortgage or your house and all of these, your car, and you're going to have to adjust to a lifestyle that you might not want to adjust to. And so for me, I was like, I don't want that kind of thing to happen to me. I want the freedom to walk away from a job I don't like, to walk away from clients I don't like. But I've also seen it for business owners. If you get addicted to a certain lifestyle, you have the big office and the big this and the big that, you have to work almost non-stop 7 days a week, long hours to maintain it. I wanted the freedom to retire whenever I want to retire. I wanted the freedom to say no to clients. And that required low debt, right? And initially when I moved in, I was doing some serious downsizing. I had a close friend of mine who said it was downsizing on steroids. I moved from what was a 3,500 square foot home into a 400 square foot home, and I cannot tell you. I sold a lot of stuff. I gave away a lot of stuff. I erected 2 storage sheds and still didn't have enough space for everything. And I remember when I was trying to pack my kitchen stuff, I realized I could only have 2 drinking glasses and 2 teacups because nothing else could fit. And you know, these things come as sets of 4, but it couldn't fit. And I remember breaking down crying at one point because it was the debate of if I'm going to keep my my wine glasses. And I said to a girlfriend of mine, this is harder than I expected it to be because these are stuff I've had for years. Some of them are sentimental. And she's like, don't worry, if we ever come over for drinks, we'll bring our own glasses, right? Fast forward a year later, and even now that I've done the extension and added more cupboards to the kitchen and stuff, some of them are empty, and I no longer feel the need to stuff them with things. When I go to the supermarket, I had long stopped shopping excessively because there was nowhere to put the stuff. I had one pantry and it could only hold so much, so I was buying less. Same with the clothes. Like my closet, yeah, I stopped buying so much clothes, and after a while I realized I didn't miss the stuff. And the most important thing is that in the storage shed, I've had stuff that I had intended to take out and use once I had more space. A year has gone by and there's so many things in there I've never used, and I didn't miss them. And I was like, we really, really need less than we think we need, you know. I've actually started just giving away the stuff that I haven't used in a year because what's my excuse? You understand? And I want you to consider this when you're considering what you want to acquire this year. I'm not discouraging what you might want to go after. I'm saying that if you were to pause for a moment, you'd realize you need less than you think. And if you were to inquire into why do I think I need 50 pairs of shoes and all these clothes, it's more often not because we're seeking some form of external validation. And that's a deeper issue that you might need to confront. But we really need much, much, much less than we think, and we can live content with it. Even though I have space now to have 4 glasses, I still have 2 because why need 4 for? You understand? So that's my message, my January 2026 message. Consider what you actually need and put your focus and your energies on those. Acquire experiences. Put the focus there rather than on acquiring things, because then they just end up being stuff we have to give away or throw out and don't even use.
Now, this one really made me think. Imagine going from 3,500 square feet to 400 square feet. That is not downsizing. That's a downsizing on steroid. But what she has learned is actually very interesting. She realized she did not miss most of the things she thought she needed. And that's something a lot of us don't want to probably admit. How many things do we own that we've not touched in years? Probably too many.
Selling tiny houses. Well, you're going to buy a tiny house from Walmart, Amazon, or maybe Home Depot. I hope you have a big budget. Why? Well, where are you going to put this tiny house? You better buy a piece of land. And hey, did you pay the zoning commission to get it zoned to build a residence there? Do you have power? Do you have water? Do you have sewer? Well, when you're all done, you're going to probably spend $100,000 to $125,000. And if you're lucky, that'll be the price. But guess what you still have? A tiny house. Congratulations, Amazon, you did it.
Now, here comes the part nobody wants to talk about. Buying the tiny house is only one part of the equation. Where are you going to put it? You need a land. You may need permit, zoning approval, water, electricity, and so on. So that cheap little house can start getting expensive very, very quickly. And after you spend over $100,000, you still have a tiny house. That part got me. After hearing all of these experiences, I think tiny home living is definitely not for everybody. I can see why people love it. Less space, less stuff, less maintenance, and potential less financial pressure. There is another side that people don't always show. You can have plumbing problems, heating problems, storage problems, privacy problems, and even relationship problems. And then you have to think about land, zoning, utility, and all the extra costs. So before anybody see a beautiful tiny house online and think I want that, please remember that you are not just buying a tiny house, you are buying a complete different way of living. And for some people, that freedom is going to be absolutely amazing. For other people, they are going to be counting the days until they can move back to a bigger house, right? So I'm curious, can you actually live in a tiny house, or would you last about 2 weeks before you start looking for a bigger space? Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching with me today, and I will see you in my next one. Bye for now.